best sound in the world. That's champagne in a glass.
Yeah, popping bottles.
That's a fizzy.
Of the good stuff. Hi, everyone.
Hello. Welcome to Dude That's Fucked Up.
Yeah, welcome to Dude That's Fucked Up.
I'm Erin.
I'm Nicole. You've joined us as we're celebrating a milestone that we made up. It's arbitrary and we don't care. Any excuse to drink delicious champagne is good for us.
Yes. Also, it was your birthday last week, so I feel like we're still celebrating that. So
True. I don't mind. That's nice. And you're on vacation, and you could still be you're like easing back in.
Also, this is like nice. Like you this is not like drinking. This is enjoying life.
Sipping,
celebrating a milestone. We've hit our over 10,000 downloads.
Yeah, we're almost to 11,000 even.
Wow.
But 10,000 was like a good number that we were.
Yeah, Nicole and I mean, we're both pretty goal-oriented people. And I don't know about you, but I like set like arbitrary goals for myself all the time, no matter how small, just to like help myself be motivated.
Yeah, move forward.
I have like notes about before we started doing the podcast. Like I had written about wanting to do a podcast, and then it like materialized out of nowhere.
Yeah, I called you one day on the freeway,
and
I was like, I just had this idea about doing a podcast about everything. And I was like, oh, should we do it? And you were like, yes, I really want to.
Oh, it all fell into place the way things are supposed to be when everything's happening for you.
When it's time. That was good.
Yeah. And now we're on our 20th episode, and we have over 10,000 downloads.
So awesome.
You guys.
And yeah, you guys are all making it possible. And
thank you so much. This glass of champs is for you.
I'm going to cheers the bottle.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's a nice. You guys can't see it, but she has a huge goblet.
It's so ugly. No, it's cute. It's pink.
It's really pretty, actually.
It's just like not delicate. It's very like, it's my Game of Thrones goblet.
Is it like iridescent kind of?
Yeah.
That's pretty. I'm getting that from the video.
Yeah. It's very fun. It says Madonna in on it, and there's little flowers on it.
It's very cool.
So, yeah.
It's kind of like 70s, like vintagey. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I like it.
Great job. Thank you guys for listening. Really appreciate it. Hello to our new listeners who are checking us out for the first time. If you don't know, we don't say nice things all the time. Well, I think we're nice, but like we say cunt and pubes and talk about poop and buttholes. So
yeah, totally.
We're making it a goal to say butthole at least 2 to 3 times per episode.
Good. Yes,
so
yes.
If you don't jive with that, then I don't know, man. This might not be for you.
We're having a meeting to discuss possibly renaming this podcast to the Butthole Podcast.
Yeah.
So we'll have a vote on that later. All members of the board.
What's your favorite euphemism for butthole?
Like dirt star?
Yeah.
Or like that? Yeah.
Balloon knot?
I don't have a lot. I don't use a lot of euphemism because I like the word butthole.
I know, right? I know. Yeah.
So that's hard.
Well, those are 2 good ones, so we'll leave it at that. If you guys have any of your other favorites. Oh, we started a closed Facebook group for our dudes. So if you want to join that and add some maybe some words, some more butthole euphemisms, that'd be cool.
Oh, that's a really good thread to start.
Yeah. I think so.
What's your favorite euphemism for butthole? Let's do that today.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So
or like when it comes out, when the episode comes out. Yeah.
Okay, good. Ancillary content.
Yeah.
Check. Check the box.
Got that. Any other business?
Well, you could find
agenda?
the group. The group's called Dude That's Fucked Up. Like, actually spelled out because it's a private group, so we could actually use the word fucked.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all you have to do is search for it, and you'll find it. But if you're already a fan of our podcast page. We posted about it in there.
Yeah. Ooh, cute. You got that champagne phlegm, huh?
The best part of the Veuve Clicquot.
Best part of Veuve Clicquot is phlegm in your throat. I don't know.
Nailed it!
Oh, God. All right, guys. Yeah, another cheers. Oh, God, I'm going to break my glass. Yours is a little bit more hefty than mine. So
Yeah, mine's all... Yours is all ding. Mine's like, ding!
Oh, shit. Oh, God damn it.
All right.
Cool.
We're on Google Play. I think we said we would try and be on there. We're legit on there now.
Yeah, like 2 minutes after we had recorded, it was like approved. Like we had just ended the recording and it was on there. So thanks again to Quincy for suggesting that. And yeah, we're just trying to spread ourselves out there.
Around. Yeah. That's a really good segue. Unless you want to talk about fucked up things, or if we also want to say we're still waiting on some reviews and ratings. We love you guys. We know you're listening. We know we have more than 50 listeners. We're trying to get to 50 ratings and reviews.
We just got one that was really cute. Like if you're like, I don't want to write anything. You don't have to. Somebody wrote one that was so great. What does it say again? It's like.
I texted you it.
Oh yeah. It's like, they're normal. It's awesome.
Yeah. I know. I really like that. Very straight to the point, and didn't have to like name anything in a, in a specific episode. They just like that we're normal. So
yeah, normal herf.
I can't think of. There's a few things now from this that I can't ever like not think of. One is normal. So like anytime someone says normal, I'm always like, you mean normal?
Or you just try to say normal, like normal, and see if anybody notices.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is that your accent?
The other thing is how? It's so funny.
Well, today's episode, I don't know, really have anything fucked up to talk about. No. Everything's pretty hunky-dory in my neck of the woods. But in the world in general, like, everything's horrible, but,
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-oh.
Excuse me. I almost choked.
Or was that contagion?
Oh, God, you guys. Today we're talking about the plague.
Oh, such a good segue.
AKA the Black Death.
Yeah, a.k.a. the Black Plague. A.k.a. the Bubonic Plague.
The Bubonic Plague.
The Boobsbonic Plague.
Oh, hell. Yeah, this is probably one of the most cataclysmic events to ever happen in human history. Well, one of them. During the course of time in the Middle Ages, when things were going pretty good, we had this horrible thing happen that wiped out a huge portion of the population. Everybody's heard of it, I'm sure, in the Western world at least. I don't know.
We learned about it in school.
Yeah, we learned about it in school. I don't think people really started studying this in exact terms until the last century, until they started going through all these records people kept. There was definitely a lot of chroniclers and people kept a lot of good records in the church. So this is kind of how we know that this was as widespread as it was and as horrific as it was. So there's a lot of accounts of it. So what happened? What was it? It was the bubonic plague. Like we said, it was the Black Plague, Black Death. So arguably one of the most significant events in Western history. It fucked everything up.
It fucked people up.
It fucked
a lot of people.
It fucked human bodies up. It fucked the economy up. It fucked the social structure, political, religious, cultural, everything. Everything was totally fucked.
People went fucking crazy, and
Absolutely.
were rude to each other. The ones that stayed alive were like
so rude.
The ones that didn't die were like just fucking horrible to each other. They were not excellent to each other. They were not cool people.
No.
And
it's like
things got weird.
It's like when everybody's just dying around you and they have no idea why. You can't figure it out. Like, what incentive do you have to be fucking cool? I don't know.
True.
Even, I don't know. So, yeah. So, everything was totally restructured after this. Like, leading up to this, so basically, let me just go back a little bit. This happened, the plague happened in the mid 1300s. Like, I think it came out of nowhere kind of in 1346 and started, yes, refill that glass, and started affecting people horribly. And like the mid, like 1346 is like when it really started happening and seeing records of it. So, yeah, so it would, at the end of this, there has been waves of it through history too. Like this, we're going to focus though on the first wave of it that happened. It was from 1346 till 1353. And you'd see like waves of it come through until like the 1600s. So that's a long time to be dealing with some of this fucked up shit. But the first wave was like the most insane and devastating. So by the end of that period of time, the plague might have reduced the world population from an estimated 450 million down to 350 to 375 million in the 14th century.
Dang.
So there's a lot of I don't know. People are kind of, the numbers are kind of all over the place. There's not really, there's good records, but there's also not a lot of, like, when poor people died, nobody gave a shit. So there could be tons more than they speculate, but there could also be, it could be pretty accurate. They think anywhere between 30 to 60%. That's a huge disparity of like numbers. Yeah. But there's one guy out there, he's an expert historian, who believes it's about 60%. 60.
Dang. That's crazy. That's 6 out of every 10 people would die from this.
Yeah, and if you kind of translate that into like the numbers of our world population now, it'd be like, if you said like 45%, it would mean that like almost 5 million or billion people died. If you translate that population, I don't know.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I watched the History Channel documentary about the Black Plague, the same one you watched. Mm-hmm. But I also watched a documentary that was on like Channel 4 in London. I don't know if that's like BBC 4 or something. But it was I got like 2/3 of the way through it and then realized, oh, this is only about London, which it was very interesting, but it wasn't like the full story, obviously. Yeah. But one of the historians in that documentary was talking about he thinks he found the most representative like documents, which were wills that people would kind of like, they didn't really keep track of all the people, but there were like, I guess they were like lawyers of the time. I don't know who took these wills, but but they saw like a really good like correlation of people and like the spike and how many people they think get like ravaged, and it was like closer to 60%, which was crazy. But I thought that was interesting that he like thought to look at that. Yeah, that's the thing. Like there's it's hard to nail down a number because of the fact that historians just started studying these different ways of finding these records and doing this like sleuthing about it, just like within the past like 100 years. So it wasn't like really of interest. Like people knew that it happened and it was this like horrible thing, but people just really started digging into it in the past century. So that's interesting. We might never know exactly what the full number is, but it basically created a bottleneck of population. Like entire towns were wiped out, like rural towns
cities were decimated. If you can imagine that happening today, it would be, I guess it's like The Leftovers. I never watched the show because I thought it was dumb, but like,
so good. Oh,
yeah, I feel like I feel like I need to rewatch it, but it's like everybody just, instead of disappearing, just dropping dead horribly around you.
Yeah, like painfully too.
Yeah.
So I guess like it, people referred to it as the Black Plague or whatever, bubonic plague, Black Death. But the scientific name that they have now given to the strain of the disease is called the Yersinia pestis.
Ew.
It sounds kind of pretty.
Yeah.
Like Yersinia. Like
Yeah.
That's like a pretty name.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
It sounds like the name Yesenia.
Oh,
which
yeah.
is a really pretty name.
Yesenia, yeah.
Well, no offense to people with Yesenia. We're not trying to say that. It sounds like your name is.
Right. We're saying the opposite. We're not saying your name sounds like the fucking Black Death.
Yeah, I don't know where the name originated, but it does sound kind of Spanish.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I don't know.
Well, like Yersinia sounds Spanish, and then pastis sounds French.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a little. It sounds very.
It's very European.
Yeah, it's just like very elegant.
Yeah, it's an elegant name for a really fucking horrifying thing.
Really gross.
It's so fucking gross, guys. Ugh.
Ugh. Yeah.
So some of the symptoms of the plague, like you're walking down the street and you start coughing, and then you get these swollen lymph nodes, which are called Buboes, which is such an awkward word. Like, I can't stand, like, I don't want to say this word. Like, it's like one of those words where you're just like, ugh, this sounds weird in my mouth. Yeah. Like, I can't say the word horny or hubby. I hate the word hubby. That was like part of me and DJ's secret vows when we got married.
You'll never call him hubby?
Yeah.
What was his to you? Is there a word he doesn't want to call you?
He'll never call me like wifey or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
We just call each other by our names.
Yeah. Or like, hey.
Or like, hey, you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, Buboes is like one of those words that are just like really awkward and gross to say. And
it reminds me of Sonos.
Oh, I like the word Sonos.
Oh.
Because it's like Latin-y.
Yeah. I don't know. Okay, sorry.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's like the same. It's the same kind of.
Yeah, like, yeah.
Yeah. So Buboes are swollen lymph nodes in your neck or your crotch. Ooh. Like.
Would you want it in your neck or your crotch?
Oh man.
Your crotch you could hide, but I don't think it matters. Like, you're just like all fevery and gross.
Yeah. Or your armpit too.
Oh yeah, or your armpit. Yeah.
Well, I have like boob fat in my armpit already, so like it's fine.
Doesn't everyone?
I mean, some people have like really skinny armpits. I have like one fat armpit.
What? Just one?
Yeah, I don't know. I like went to the doctor. I'm like, am I dying? And she's like, no, it's just, some of your breast tissue migrated to your armpit. Like, it happens to other people. And I was like, fuck.
Is it heading anywhere else? Should I?
Yeah.
Should I direct
why didn't it just stay in my tits?
Yeah.
God damn it. Yeah.
So get back in line, boob tissue.
Yeah. So that's a fun thing for me. But these people were dealing with real problems.
Your little B-cup armpits.
Yeah, god damn it. I'm so pissed off. It's just one side.
Well, it's like it's regular for people to have one armpit bigger than the other.
God damn it.
Okay,
it's
but
really
that's
cool
not
being a lady, guys.
Yeah, being a lady is the best. Luck be a lady.
Yeah, so that was, but they would get like gross. Like they'd swell up to like the size of a softball. It wasn't just like, meh, it was like, bleh.
That's not even the, like, wouldn't you think to drain it or something?
You can't really drain a lymph node.
Oh, really? It's not like fluids? What makes it swell up? I don't know.
It's like, you know, when you get it, like, have you ever been really sick and had like an infection and like your lymph nodes swell up on your throat? You can like feel them.
I have a permanently swollen one. I don't know what that means.
Well, it's probably like, you know, just like sinus stuff. Like your sinuses drain into your throat lymph nodes. Like, that's why you gotta like do like, okay, I know I shit on Goop all the time, but I actually do like, I do some of the stuff from it. Like I bought a dry brush. You gotta dry brush your skin. Oh my God, it's so great. Oh, it's the best. If you want to like get your lymphatic system like flowing, you just like, that's how you like, that's the only way you can like quote unquote drain your lymph nodes is by like stimulating your lymphatic system. So, but when you have an infection like, or a horrible disease like this, like your lymph nodes are the first thing that like freak the fuck out. So.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Like, so they get all swollen.
Yeah, they get all swollen, but they get like crazy swollen in this case.
Well, I've been thinking of Gwyneth a lot through this topic because of the movie Contagion.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like patient zero, remember?
Yeah. And she like collapses in the kitchen. Oh my God.
Yeah. So I've been thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a lot of people, I mean, if you want to like get panicky, like this is like how Ebola kind of was. Like it just was killing people and nobody knew how to, you couldn't really get near it and you couldn't really like treat it because you didn't know what the fuck was going on. And like, you know, so.
This doesn't scare me though. Like I was watching the documentary stuff last night and Pete was like, this is what keeps me up at night. Like this type of thing. Like
pandemics in general.
Yeah. I was like, oh really? I'm fine. I don't know.
Well, I think that's like why people are like germaphobes and stuff. Like, I mean, not really.
Yeah.
Like, but people freak out about this stuff because it's like, pandemics can happen and we just have better ways of dealing with them now. But like, imagine then, like, again, doctors were just like okay, let me go back a little bit. Okay. The time before this was kind of like a mini enlightenment. Like there were like the weather was awesome. Like people were studying all kinds of cool, like older, like Greek text and like religion was kind of chill, but like not really. But you know, like there was like this kind of period of time where you're like everything was kind of nice and people were having prosperity, but then all of a sudden like the weather changed, the like wars started breaking out, and then we have like this crazy plague. So people thought the world was ending. Like all of this bad shit just started happening at once, and it's just like the natural ebb and flow, I think, of like the world population kind of goes through these things and the earth goes through these like crazy things. But this was like all the things happened at once, and the population of the earth was not as big as it was now. Like we grew exponentially after everybody got cured of the plague, but you know, anyway.
Well, all those things led to everyone being like ripe for infection.
Right.
Because it was like, oh, people, you know, the change in weather meant the crops weren't doing so good, so people were starving a bit and just like, you know. And
because things had been so good, the population started to go up.
Right. People were
People were prosperous. People were getting, you know,
touchy.
Doing sex and, yeah.
Doing sex.
And, like, the infant mortality rate was, like, probably super bad, but, like, because everything was okay. It was, like, people were boning, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, anyway. There's this good time, and then it went real bad real quick. Yeah. And probably the worst that life has ever been at any point in time.
Yeah.
So some of the symptoms, like we were saying, we'll go back. Swollen lymph nodes, really bad. Bloody cough, like really, really gross. Like you're hacking up a lung and then you're just like bleeding out of your lungs. Septic shock.
Yeah, and I don't know, like I saw some pictures of people who've had it more recently because it still exists, and we'll get to that. But their fingertips and their hands and their nose and their eyes were all like black from pooling of blood, I think. So like that's maybe where it got its name, is like the Black Death is like because your skin, you would like start bruising and blood would pool everywhere, and especially in your lymph nodes and stuff, and it would just start spreading. So people got all like black and blue. Yeah,
like the blood would pool under your skin. So it was like, it looked like you were bruised all over, but it was just one of the symptoms. So
yeah. And like the first thing is you get like a flu-like symptoms, and then all this shit happens. And it would take like 2 to 6 days for symptoms to show up, which is what helped kind of like lead to the spread of it, because you wouldn't necessarily know you were infected, and until you got the flu. But by then it's too late.
Yeah. And not everybody died from this. It was a very, very small percentage of people that didn't die, but most people did die from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so by the time you saw symptoms, though, you're pretty fucked. And then you die within a few days.
Yeah.
So we're focusing on where it was mostly happening, which was Western Europe.
Yeah.
It was believed to have originated in the East, probably in Mongolia. There was like a lot of crazy wars happening. Like Mongolia was like crushing it. They were just conquering people left and right. And so they had the entire like East was their battlefield. Like people were just like, it was being raped and pillaged. So basically, and literally. So who knows like what happened. Like there's a lot of debate about how this like actually this contagion actually formed, but it was believed to have begun there. And so what it was happening during that time economically was the West was starting to trade with the East pretty heavily. Mongolia, because they were a superpower, had all kinds of stuff. Like, I don't know. I feel like this was like during the time of like, or a little bit later than Marco Polo. Like a lot of like trade routes had opened up, like overland, and like, but the way this came to Europe from the East was through the trade routes by sea. Yeah. So people would get infected and then get on a ship and then bring it to ports in Europe.
Yeah, what's the weirdest thing, or like the most interesting thing of like what really was like the catalyst for setting this off was that a bunch of the East traders came from like Mongolia, and they came to this small like trading port called Kaffa, which is now referred to as Fedosia or Theodosia. Theodosia is also the name, one of the songs in Hamilton.
Oh, yeah.
Pete plays it all the time. I'm not a huge fan.
I don't like musicals. So.
Yeah, we're going to go
but
see
Hamilton's, like,
it's like
cool.
Supposed to be amazing.
Yeah, it's like, the best one ever. So
yeah. It's supposed to be pretty cool as far as music.
It's also, like, hip-hop, and, like, I'm on board with that.
Yeah, it's, like fun.
Lin-Manuel Miranda is, like, a fucking genius. So.
Oh, my God. Have we talked about, have you seen Moana?
No, I haven't.
It's so good.
But I know all the songs are written by him. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like so good.
I need to watch it. I'm not with the times.
It's okay. Well, anyway, so I don't know. That's what it's called now. But there were all these tradesmen that would stop there, and then they'd like make their trades, and then people would take it through to like Italy and up to Europe. But the Mongols had come, and they were like, hey, let us into your city. We like got some furs and shit to trade you. And they were like, no, that guy's coughing up blood. I don't think we want to let him in. And
yeah, that's a good that's fair.
They're like, can you just like wait outside? Like, no, you can't sit with us. And then and so then they were like, what? No, let us in. And they're like, no. And they like closed the doors, and then they were like, fuck them. So then they like took all the people who were coughing up blood and died, and they catapulted them into Kaffa, this like trading town. Just fucking gross, like rotting, infected dead bodies. And it was like the very first like instance
biological warfare.
Yeah. Biological warfare. That's like fucking crazy. And so
this is the first case of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
fucking
so
hell.
From there, then people, they're like, whoa, ew, gross. Like stop like pushing or catapulting your dead bodies into here. They're all like drippy and nasty. And so then like they still had to take the goods that they were there for and go back to their own towns or wherever they needed to go. So from there, people got on a bunch of boats and they went to Italy, and they ended up in a town in Sicily, and they were like, hey, let us in. And then people were like, okay. And they like, the merchants climbed down on the boats, and there's like sick ass dead people coughing all over, rotting.
Yeah,
nasty.
they come into port and they like are barely all alive.
Yeah, there's like one alive dude who like happened to like be able to dock the boat.
Yeah, he's like, I gotta get off the boat, help me. And then they're like, oh no. They get on the boat and there's just everybody's dead. It's like a ghost ship, basically.
Yeah. It's like, hey, can you guys like let me off this boat? Blood all over.
They're like, what's that bulge on your neck?
Yeah. Oh, why is your face purple?
Like, yeah, ooh. It was like the equivalent of dropping a bomb on the city.
Yeah.
But a very like sneaky, like and without them realizing it, they just like opened the door to this horrible pandemic that ended up wiping them out. So yeah, the reason why it started basically in Western Europe is because this first boat came to Sicily or Moderna or something like that. I don't know.
Messina.
But Messina.
Yeah,
It started with him. Yeah, and just
infected.
all these people were fucking infected. So
well, and it's like it's not just the people. There's like goods that are infected that they still took to trade, and there's like rodents and shit. So they don't know exactly, right? Like what
they don't know. We know now what it was most likely.
Rodents.
It was
fleas.
Well, it was the fleas.
Yeah.
So what would happen was, so there's obviously 1 million rats on ships back then, and where this came from was from fleas who had drank the blood of an infected person or animal or whatever, wherever this came from, gotten onto the rats. The rats traveled onto the boat with the fleas on them. The fleas eat or suck the blood from the rat that's infected, and then the flea jumps onto a human and bites them, and there's like this regurgitation of blood that's still in its like little chompers, and that's how it infects a human. So it's this like weird chain, and it's really gross and really, but that's how they believe that it started, and that is how it happened.
Yeah.
So fleas are like teeny tiny, and they get everywhere. They're in clothes, they're in, goods, they're coming on the rats, they're getting on other animals, they're getting on people, and everybody's fucking gross back then. Like, like just dirty and disgusting and just
living
don't know
with
how
their
to...
animals, especially the poor people were like living with their animals, and it just takes one bite.
Yeah. And I mean, they didn't know. I mean, even the rich people, they were fucking disgusting too. Like, they didn't know anything about personal hygiene. They didn't know to like...
They didn't have toilets. They like shat in a bucket and then threw it out the window. Yeah.
Like, so basically Western Europe was like ripe for this. The reason it didn't go as apeshit in the East is because they had better ways of like dealing with like their stuff. But people are very puzzled still to this day at how fast this spread, because this isn't a very fast spreading disease. So we can get to that later, but it didn't explode like it did in Western Europe in the East, because I think that they just had better standards of living and better standards of hygiene. So Western Europe was not doing it right. Hashtag they were not doing it right. They were doing it wrong. So yeah, this is we're focusing on Western Europe here, even though it did start probably in the East. And the time of when this all was going down was, like I said, 1346, 1353. So in England, a quarter of the population was killed off. And these are all estimates because, again, like, they didn't give a fuck about poor people, and they didn't really have records for all these people probably. So... Well,
and that's England in general. Like, in the urban
England
areas,
in
like, London, it was, like, closer to 50. Like, it was,
And all, like, Italy, it hit Italy. 60% of the population just in Florence was wiped out.
It's crazy.
It hit Germany. I don't have a fun fact about population there, but they had some fucked up shit happen in there. I'll get to that later. Spain, in Barcelona alone, it's thought that approximately 60% of the population was wiped out by the plague. That's crazy. France, approximately 50% of the population is wiped out. And this is the way this ramps up is just so insane. And this is where historians and scientists are just, like, baffled.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't seem like this should happen like this. Like, you're walking down the street one minute and then all of a sudden you're dead. Like, basically is, like, what's happening. It's so gnarly.
There were places where at its, like, peak, I guess, of infection or contagion, they were burying, like, over 200 people a week. And in the city of Avignon, in France, 11,000 people were buried in one cemetery in the course of 3 weeks. So, like, they were literally just, like, they couldn't dig holes fast enough to bury people, which obviously doesn't help, like, in the fact that it's infecting other people, because you just have so many dead bodies out and about. And then there was even a monastery that had 140 monks at the start of the plague, and by the time it had, like, made its way through Europe and it had calmed down, only 7 monks had survived of 140 monks. Like, that's insane. And, like, I think of monks and I'm like, oh, they're, like, little old dudes that are, like, frail.
No, they're all young. They're, like...
But they were probably,
like,
I mean, yeah, people didn't really live past the age of 40 back then, so...
Yeah. Well, this is one of the reasons. Well,
yeah.
Well, we have this, like, decreased average because of
the plague.
Things like the plague.
Yeah.
When we think about people living, like, their age range, like what people were living to back then.
Yeah.
The average is decreased because of things like this.
Yeah.
So people were definitely living into their 80s, 90s, 100s, whatever.
Yeah.
But some people. But when you have things like poor hygiene and plagues and starvation or horrible accidents that can happen, and then you get an infection from it, like, because you don't have fucking penicillin, like, that decreases and then, like, the infant mortality rate. So just to be clear,
it brings the average down.
But yeah, that's pretty fucking gnarly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy. I just keep thinking about, like, what would happen if something like that happened in modern day, and it would just, oh man.
But, like,
it's
this
so
wouldn't happen, would it? Like, I just think that we're so advanced when it comes to, like, medical science and the protocol for if someone is showing symptoms that are infecting people, like, quarantining them and, like, maybe not.
This is the thing that happens, and it's because it's ignorance and just ignorance, I think. But but if you, like, actually, like, listen to, like, the CDC and pay attention to the warning signs or whatever, like, you're gonna be in better shape than people who are just like, I heard this and this is what you're supposed to do, because this is kind of like all it takes is, like, some unknown contagion to break out, and for people to not take care of themselves or to not pay attention or just to generally be in bad health, like, for it to spread out of control. I think, I don't know, I think it could happen again. Definitely not on this scale. Definitely not.
I'm sure it could happen again, but, like, I feel like it's so much harder just because of even if you just think about, like, okay, if someone was infected and they were, like, on the documentary, it was, oh God, all of the documentaries have really bad reenactments.
I know.
And it's like, oh God, it's just these people. It's like, they live in some town nearby where they filmed this, and they're like not actors, and they're just like
No. There was one guy like burping, and I'm like, oh god, no. I mean, I'm sure that's like probably realistic, actually.
Maybe, I don't know, but then it's showing them like, oh, you know, they're taking the bread to the market, and it's just all these unwrapped loaves, and they're all like manhandling them and like coughing on them, and I'm like, okay, like we have the FDA, which says that, you know, things should be packaged and clean and food safety and all this stuff, and it's like, I think we're in a pretty good spot where we can kind of like, you know, we have sneeze guards at salad bars and shit like that, and
then you got the anti-vaxxers.
Yeah, well, they're mental. But actually, I was at a salad bar on Friday, and it was like they had put. It was not designed well. It was like the salad bar, like, sneeze guard was out really far, and then the salad stuff was back, like, really far. So you were basically, like, smushing your face. And I was like,
your arm couldn't reach far enough.
Yeah. And I'm, like, a tallish. I mean, like, for a girl, I'm probably maybe average height, but maybe on the taller side. Like, little.
You're like, what, 5'7"?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe 5'6", 5'7". But I was reaching. Maybe I have short arms.
You might have short arms.
Oh, I might have like the
Oh,
T-Rex
no.
complex. Oh no.
No.
But anyway, I just couldn't get to the beats, and I was like really stretching, and yeah.
You're like, I don't want to touch my cheek to the sneeze guard.
No, there was just like a face imprint. It was mine. I could like trace it.
Ew.
No, I didn't leave it. Gross.
That looks like my brand of foundation.
I just left a full makeup like imprint on this fucking sneeze guard, and then I signed it with my autograph for when I'm famous.
Ew. All right.
Anywho.
Okay, yeah. So this shit's fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely the fleas biting the rats.
Yeah.
Rats. Yeah. So I was saying before, like, how historians and scientists are like kind of like freaked out about how this spread so rapidly, and they're like, was it just the bubonic plague? Like, they think it was the pneumonic plague too?
Yeah, the pneumonic plague. Yeah.
Which is gross. It's like it's the same sort of kind of it has like the same sort of symptoms, but it's spread with like coughing.
Yeah.
Instead of the fleas biting you, you spread it like you're fucking
Germs.
coughing on somebody and getting it.
Well, because they were like, how could this even... The only way that this could spread that quickly is, some scientists feel, is transmitting it through your, like, saliva and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were like, oh, that documentary with the Vincent D'Onofrio scientist, the historian that was like, did one of the guys remind you of Vincent D'Onofrio?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of.
And every time he would come on, I'd be like, oh, Vincent. He's such a great actor. This guy's really good. But, yeah, but they were saying like it was so descriptive. They're like, oh yeah, like pneumonic plague, passing it through like in a way that's mnemonic or pneumonia-ish is like, oh, in your lungs, you're like bleeding internally, and then you cough, and there's like little specks of blood in your cough, and then you like cough onto someone by accident, and then it gets transmitted to them. And I was like, oh god.
It's
that
like,
is
well,
contagion.
that's how Ebola spreads too. It's like any bodily fluid that gets on you, basically.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
But like mostly doo-doo, right? Or I mean, thinking of E. coli.
E. coli.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like E period.
Coli.
Yeah, coli. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's why Ebola spread so quickly, because it was like this pneumonic plague kind of thing. So
yeah.
that they think it could have been a combination of things all happening at once, because people were so weakened by the bubonic plague.
Yeah.
There is like room for other things to kind of jump in there too and wipe people out also, which is like so fucking gnarly and scary. So yeah, that's like the best they can come up with, because like I said, like this isn't necessarily a fast spreading disease. Like we it still exists today. Like I think squirrels carry bubonic plague.
I remember hearing that when we lived in the mountains, and I was like, oh God.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's true.
Oh.
And that's why you don't approach wildlife because you never know. Raccoons could have rabies. There's no cure for rabies, guys. If you get bit by something that is rabid, you have to go to the hospital and you have to go through a whole battery of like injections.
Like a tetanus shot or something?
Well, it used to be that you got a bunch of like 100 shots in your abdomen or something like that, but I think they have it like more fine-tuned now. Oh. But it's 100% fatal, so if you don't get treated for it, you will die.
Oh my God.
But that's rabies.
Yeah.
But bubonic plague, I think, is definitely carried by like certain little rodents still.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful, but it's because it's not a fast. We don't have like fleas in our bedding anymore. Like we don't have. I mean, some people do. I don't know. Or like our domesticated animals get flea baths or have flea collars, or they don't go outside so they could get fleas.
We're just a lot cleaner now. We're not living in little like huts with dirt floors and
living with our livestock. Yeah.
Yeah, living with our livestock. I think also the other thing that spread it is that people were not buried right. So like people would get sick and they'd maybe die, and they would take the body into the church and people would be there and like, they're still infected. Maybe they have fleas on them. Maybe they're biting other people in the, like in the congregation that have come to like pay their respects. Yeah. But it was crazy. And like, I don't know, they're just when it got to the point where there were so many people dying every day, bodies were literally piling up, and they were having to create what they called lasagna graves, which I think is offensive to people who are Italian. No, I don't. I'm just kidding. But basically where they would throw a bunch of bodies.
Or Chile Relleno graves, like my mom makes. Which is offensive to Mexicans like me.
Or like fucking shepherd's pie graves. I mean, pick your peasant food and insert here.
Your nation's layered food.
Pick your nation's like layered, easy, delicious feeds like a bunch of people food. But yeah, so lasagna graves where they were like they would just like throw all the bodies on the bottom, put a little dirt on top, maybe a little clay, then another row of bodies, then more dirt. Like they were just having to dig these giant trenches and like fucking throw as many dead bodies in there as possible and cover them up.
But to their credit, they were burying the bodies. Yeah, and they were doing it pretty neatly too. Like they were like lining them up.
They were trying.
They were trying really hard to like be as respectful as possible. Yeah. But it was just like there was so many people dying, and they had to, like the religion was mostly Catholic at the time in this region of the world. So they couldn't like burn the bodies. That would be sacrilegious. They had to bury them with a priest and like all the ceremony and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So they were burying them as respectfully as they could. They weren't just like throwing them into a pit like is commonly thought. They weren't just like bodies strewn everywhere.
Right.
Like, they were
people in a
like
pit, but they were like nicely lined facing east, blah blah blah. Like they tried to do it. But also when it got so bad, like people, because people start to think, oh no, like I don't want to be around this. Like maybe you're the gravekeeper of your town or whatever, and then you're like, or maybe you die because
and there's nobody else to do it.
And there's no one else to do it. So they would find. I like how they described them. They were like these. I forget what they. Oh no, I forget. Oh, they were like these uncouth people came down from the, from these men and women who were really uncouth came down from like the mountains, and they were like the hill people, and they would say, "I'm gonna
hillbillies."
Yeah, they were like hillbillies. They were like peasant hillbillies, and they were like, "Yeah, I'll bury your dead people for a fee," and then they like, but no one else wanted to do it, so they would pay them, and they would just like fucking dig these huge ditches and like put these people in it, and it must have smelled really bad. So even though they were overcharging, like people were like, no, I'm fine with this, you should do this.
Yeah, it really changed a lot of, like, the burial customs, and, like, we can get into this a little bit later, but it changed a lot of the economic, like, balance.
Yeah.
And social balance, because all the rich people were like, fuck this, we're getting the fuck out of here. They were like going to their country estates, trying to get away from this.
Their weekend homes.
And this left all the land just like like all the peasants in the village were just like, all right, well, somebody's gotta, like, we need food. Like, so it left like big power vacuums. It just was crazy. Like, it was a crazy time. Like, it changed like I said in the very beginning, it changed the economics and the social structure of all of Western Europe, because I mean, this disease did not discriminate. It killed was it Edward the Second?
Edward the Third. King Edward the Third's daughter, Joan.
Yeah, she was betrothed to like this Spanish prince or whatever
of Castile. Yeah,
yeah, and she, on her way there, got the plague and died. And this was a big. All people got married back then for was like alliances and like for territory, and to help their countries have an alliance so that they could, you know, win wars with what country was at war with whoever. Yeah. So I think the Spanish were at war with the French or something at the time. So y'all can yell at me all you want, but I don't know history.
We're not historians. We
like I know some history. I know some history, but like I don't remember specifically who they were at war with, but they were definitely at war. Like everybody was at war during this time. This is like part of this horrible, shitty time. Yeah. But yeah, so Joan was betrothed to like the Spanish prince or king or whatever, and died from the plague on her way. Her entourage was besieged by disease, and she died. So, and this was like the King of England's favorite daughter, and so it didn't discriminate. Like everybody was dying, like rich, poor, clergy, you know, people who were uncouth or, you know, just not worthy of they had to change the customs so much. Like it used to be that like peasants couldn't have like last rites or something said for them, or I forget. Oh no, I can't remember. I'll cut that out. But it was just like, it was like crazy. It was just so crazy.
Are you as buzzed as I am?
Yeah. Oh my God.
I'm like, why is my nose running? Everything's falling apart. And I'm like, am I listening right now? I think so. And all I could think of just now is like, what did the like King of Castile think? Like, did he write a letter back to the king and be like, the bitch is dead, what do I do now? Like,
yeah, what the fuck,
who
man?
Am I supposed to marry now? Yeah,
I bet everybody in his place was dropping dead too. So it's just like the world was ending. Everybody was like freaking out. So what happens when people think the world is ending? They believe they're being punished by God, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
So people were freaking out. Religion was everything back then. So people were starting to question everything. They were like, okay, how religious could our clergy be if they're also dying? Like, what is, like, every single member of my family is dead. Yeah. I'm going to die. What do I have? Like, who cares? Like, people were either... There was, like, two extremes. Like, people were either, like, just in the street fucking. Like, literally women walked around with... I heard this in a podcast, this history podcast I was listening to. They cut the backs of their dresses off so their butts were showing so they could get fucked by people walking down the street.
Like one of those butt flaps in a onesie?
No, they just did not have any...
They're just naked fanny showed?
Yeah. Fanny means pussy in England.
Not here. It means a butt, okay?
It means a butt.
Me and my cousins used to do a fanny show, and...
No. Yeah. Oh, no.
And we would, like, go... We didn't, like, show our fannies, but we would just dance around and...
You cannot say fanny anymore.
Why? It was our butts.
I know, we
don't live in England.
I know, but people that listen to this do.
I'm going to text my cousin right now. What was a fanny show? What did we do in the fanny show? I think we just danced.
saying that, if you like had gone to like England and said that you were doing a fanny show, they would have been like, "Oh my god,
I know,
little 8-year-old girl."
No, my cousin.
Shut your mouth.
My cousin lives in London, and somebody said fanny. She said fanny or something, and somebody was like, "That's your vagina."
Yeah, it's your twat.
Yeah.
But yeah, so people were just like either going apeshit and not giving a fuck and like doing all the bad things, drinking in the street, fucking
gambling.
Just they didn't care. They were like, "We're gonna die. We're gonna die."
Yeah.
And then, or they were going the opposite direction where they were becoming really religious zealots, where they were like, "Oh, we have to atone for the sins of everybody else, and we have to get really crazy with our, with atonement, basically, with their penance." So a lot of religious zealots came out of this. There was the flagellants in Germany.
I
mainly.
kept thinking it said flatulence, and I was like, why? I was like, I don't understand. Am I missing something? Is that a German word? I was like so confused, and Vincent D'Onofrio just kept bringing it up, and I was like, what is happening? But it's flagellants, and they like hit themselves.
Not flatulence.
Yeah, it's like flagellants.
FLAGELLANTS.
Yeah.
So basically that means that you're just like beating the shit out of yourself. Like they had like whips that had like the cat o' nine tails, like where it had like strips of leather that had little barbs on the end. They just like whipped themselves with it and like cut their backs open. Like,
which is
they're walking around
crazy and gross, and like, fine, you do you. But then they would get all up in people's shit, and they would people were
like, yes, we need this. And they'd take the blood from their backs and like rub it in their eyes and shit.
Women would, because they thought they were rock stars, because they were like sweaty and had no shirts on, and they were like hitting themselves with
this is like the first like metal band, like they're like, wow. Yeah, and like these chicks are like, oh, showing their boobos to them and stuff. I don't know.
Oh my god.
They're like rubbing their back blood on their swollen boobos.
on their
Oh my god.
I've
just been drinking Veuve nonstop.
I have something in my eye. I don't even know how it got there.
Oh my god. All right, so yeah, people just started freaking the fuck out. They're like, I don't even know what to do. My family's, we said that already. They obviously.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, they blame the Jews.
Obviously.
That's the first thing that everybody started doing. They're like, well, the Jews just poisoned all the wells. That's why we're getting sick. Like, that's what happened. And so people just would like form these groups and just like vigilante on like, and go after the like Jewish population.
Well, they were an easy target.
Kill them.
Well, they were an easy target because they were already being persecuted at this time in Europe. They had to wear specific clothes so you could easily identify them. And they weren't quote unquote free people because they were subject to the nobility. So like you had to get approval from the king to go to the markets, or like you had to get approval from the Pope or whatever. Like you had to have someone in the ranks of nobility say you could be doing the things you were doing. So they were like very easy to target.
Yeah, like you were, if you were like a merchant or something, you had to have somebody vouch for you so that you could go into town and do your trading or do whatever you needed, do whatever business you needed to do. So they were not free to move about anywhere. Yeah. They had their own communities, as it was for centuries. But basically, people would just start lynching them. Mm-hmm. And even the Pope at the time, Pope Clement, I think the 6th.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was around during the first during this whole time. He was just like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? Yeah. Like the people that were going after the Jewish people, they were just like vigilantes and grabbing Jewish people whenever they'd see them and just like string them up and kill them. And even the Pope was like, no guys, do you not see that they're like also dying of the plague? Like, what? That makes no sense. Like, what are you doing? So not only were the Jews also dying of the plague, they were being persecuted on top of that and just like ripped out of their communities and being killed by people.
Yeah.
Or arrested or whatever.
Yeah. Although he was a little odd, he had this doctor, Guy de Charliac.
Oh, yeah.
Which Guy is Guy.
The Pope Clement VI.
Pope.
Help me.
Help me. But yeah, so Pope Clement VI, like, yes, that was like, it was good that he was, chug it, girl. How much
I thought I was just taking a sip.
Oh, mine's not a lot.
Me too.
Oh, thank God. Okay, but this is what I was saying. Pope Clement VI was good. He was like, yeah, what are you guys doing? But also he was weird because he had this doctor, Guy de Charliac, which is spelled Guy. And I had the weirdest time Googling this because I was like, how the fuck do you spell Guy? And then I was like, is it like Ghee? I did all these searches and then none of them came up with anything. But anyway, he had this doctor and this doctor was like, oh, the reason this is all happening is this bad alignment of the cosmos, Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars. Yeah. And it's like releasing this. I didn't know a miasma was a bad vapor, but I'm glad you figured that out in our notes.
The vapors.
Oh, it's releasing a distinct gas that's bad, and it's poisoning everyone. And so he was like, that's why this is happening. And the Pope, you should move away and be safe. And he's like, no. And so instead he just like lit all these little fires to like dissipate the vapors. And apparently it worked. He never got sick. But this guy did. Guy got sick. And he had like his groin and neck was all swollen and he had the plague and he was like, oh no. So he made a concoction and he cooked some butter and yeast and figs and some onions.
Onion.
Some onions.
Guy cooked that onion.
But it worked because he survived because he rubbed it on his neck and his crotch.
Oh, God.
And a few days
later... It's like the birth control episode.
I know. That's why I said onions. Because you go, what? You're like, what if everyone's dick smelled like onions?
I need to listen to that episode again. That might be one of my favorite episodes we ever did.
It's like legit one of my... I've listened to it again since.
Okay, I'm going to listen to it again.
But yeah, so he survived. So I don't think it had anything to do with that stuff. He probably just had like a good immune system, but...
Yeah, well, I don't know. Onions are pretty good for you.
Onions and figs and butter and yeast. Maybe the yeast like activated and like...
Oh, maybe he like fermented himself and like gave himself like penicillin on accident. I don't know.
Yeah. We don't know.
We don't know. Who knows, man?
Yeah.
Who's to say?
Are we...
But yeah.
We're getting towards the end, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, yeah, everybody just was already having a hard time.
Yeah.
And this just really devastated everybody. But I love them trying to, like, figure out with such a primitive, like understanding of, like, how, like, they didn't know anything about germs. They knew nothing about contagion. They knew nothing about any of this. And them trying to, like, the intellectuals of the day trying to, like, theorize and think about what happened and how it happened and what it were just like you said, they thought it was like bad vapors or a miasma.
There was no goop.com to tell you to put a matcha tea on the stove, but
that's what goop is right now. Like it's pseudoscience. Yeah, so
true. It is primitive.
Yeah. Although I will say dry brushing is pretty great.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say like the jade egg has changed your life.
No.
Okay.
Even I know that's not good. Yeah, or they thought it was a bad alignment of the cosmos. Like they didn't really know what was going on. But anyway, so I mean, it kind of tapered off.
Yeah.
Because everybody was
just
dead. And there was just no more population to really kind of... And I think the people that did survive had kind of a built-in immunity to this. So...
Could, yeah.
It's the thing of where you get this immunization naturally. And so whoever did survive kind of had this built-in gene that helped prevent it from spreading to them. So, but of course, as all good contagions go, it mutated probably and surpassed that genetic kind of thing, because this continued to happen through like the next 300 years of it. It happened again and again and again. But in probably different mutations of it. So,
but there was also like some of the flagellants and the religious zealots, like they instituted like a bunch of rules that they made everybody abide by, especially in like some urban areas. And one of the things was, because they were to the point of like just so many people dying, they finally said, if somebody dies, you cannot remove them from the place that they died unless they're in a wooden coffin, which definitely, and this may have just been in some areas like in Germany where like they were really, the flagellants were like really.
The flatulence was really strong. Just kidding. I never thought of that until you said that.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
That's like the first thing I heard. I was like,
I don't know why.
I was like, what does gas have to do with this? Anywho, yeah. So they wouldn't allow people to be removed from the places they died unless they were in a wooden coffin, which helps to, contain the contagion. And then also they had another rule that said, don't bring your dead people into the city. So like if someone's already died and you live on the outskirts or you're in like the suburbs of our little town, you can't bring them in to get blessed or whatever. Like they need to stay out there. So they started doing a few things that actually helped.
Yeah.
So it's like a combination.
I mean, it was, a lot of them were probably arbitrary rules, but those rules specifically did help kind of.
By accident.
So a lot of like the crazy artwork of the time that came out of this was like the Danse Macabre. Like that was the like allegorical works that came out of this time, where it just was like the democratic, like, I guess, existence of death between classes. Like everybody dies,
but that's
like,
a very good song by The Fever.
Yeah, but so it was like this motif that came out of the time, which depicts the universality of death, the Danse Macabre. And it just macabre. Le danse macabre.
Oh, are you okay? I thought you were choking on your tongue.
No. I'm just drinking Vivtica. So everybody that you knew died during this time. If you were left alive, you probably had no family.
No.
Like, your everybody you love is gone. I think I probably would have just like gone into the woods. If you're smart, you just fucking take off.
I don't know. Yeah. Everybody's first instinct was to like help their family members and that were like ill.
Sure.
And then they were seeing like, oh no, but then like little Johnny who helped his mama who was sick, like also got it. Then little Jimmy or whatever. It's like, and then so people started fleeing. Yeah. I mean, they were like,
the idea of quarantine was not a thing really. They kind of, a lot of interesting stuff came out of this time.
Yeah.
We've said it at least 3 times before, but the class system changed significantly.
Because people were dead and they couldn't work the noble people's land. Yeah. Like there weren't enough people, and you could actually
and the noble people died too.
Yeah, and the noble people. Although it really affected the poor people the most because of their living conditions. But like, it was. Then these people could say, "Okay, I'll work your farm, but you need to pay me something substantial." And either they would, and the people would make money, or they wouldn't, and the peasants would start to take over land and grow what they wanted to and charge people what they wanted to. So it changed things, for a good amount of the people.
And again, like, people were away at war, so there was, like, no real way to, like, enforce I mean, there probably was, but there was not enough people willing to jump in and kind of like police anything. So it was just it truly was the end of the world in a lot of ways. But you know what? Humans are resilient, and we came back from it.
Yeah.
Or Western Europe came back from it, and after 300 years of dealing with it, they figured out how to contain it. And but I mean, it still exists today, and plagues still can happen.
Okay.
Or plagues, and I would say pandemics can still happen.
This is what is fucked up. Okay, the plague, the bubonic plague still exists, mostly in Africa, freely. Like, it's just kind of out in the open, but it can be treated with antibiotics. So as long as people can get to medical attention, they could be treated. And it's mostly on the island of Madagascar is like where it's the most fervent. Like about 60 people die a year, I think, is what I heard. Yeah, which is still crazy, but more than that are infected and they get treated and they're okay. But this is what is fucking crazy. So, like, there's a lab in London that actually has live cultures of the bubonic plague that are, like, under lockdown, maximum security. They don't, like, they use, like, they're behind a bulletproof glass wall with the gloves that go in, and they, like, touch and, like, they're not exposed to it at all. And they were able to determine that it's the exact same strain that affected the people in the 1300s, because when they exhumed bodies, there's there's no trace of the plague on the bones, because it happens too quickly. You die,
and it's a they call it like a flesh disease.
Yeah, they thought it was a flesh disease or whatever.
But they can find it in the tooth pulp of the people who died. So when the archaeologists exhume people, they can find the DNA of the strain
in their teeth
of what this is.
It's fucking crazy.
Oh, and another thing I forgot to mention, they also, because we talked about the pneumonic or form of the plague, they also thought, like, scientists also think that anthrax was happening at the same time too.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And this is why you have to be careful as an archaeologist. This is a thing I learned. You have to be really careful when you dig up these grave sites or any burial of any animal, because, like, I think the animals that primarily carry anthrax are goats or lambs, I think, or sheep. And when you dig it up, it's had time for the chemical reaction to happen. And when you dig it up, you can it like will create anthrax. Like, it'll just like marinate, and then you have to be really careful when you exhume things like this,
because you release it.
You release it,
yeah,
and you can inhale it into your lungs. So you have to be really careful. This is a thing. It's very, very rare, but it's a thing that happens. So anthrax is like a thing that they thought was happening. So when they were like burying all these people, and like it wasn't just like people that were dying, it was like animals too. So it's a lot.
Wait,
it's a lot
I thought anthrax was like a chemical.
You can take the thing that affects people and like make it into a powder.
Oh. I don't really know. I just know it's like a post office thing, and
no, it's because you can put it in because after 9/11 that happened.
Oh yeah.
People were putting it
biological warfare.
Biological warfare.
Yeah.
And that's anthrax.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, and that's fucked up. Well, the Viv really kicked in midway through here. We had a lot to say. I mean, this is a very interesting topic when we started going into it. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff going on. Oh, my God. Whoops.
That's staying in there. I've been burping this whole time, but they're so sad. My burps are so sad, so you couldn't even hear them.
I'm sorry, everybody.
No, that was good.
I'm drunk from half a bottle of champagne.
I'm going to finish it.
No.
Yeah, I was like, no, I'm going to put it back in the fridge. No, fuck that. It won't taste good later. It'll have fridge taste on it, which is like mushrooms and onions and like milk. Onions. Okay, I might not. Well, TBD.
Hold that thought. Well, that's all I have. There's
Yeah.
so much more to it, though. If you guys want to learn more, there's the
No, there's not that much more. We did it.
No. I mean, if you want to like dive into all this and learn
Yeah.
about it and how crazy it was, you can really do some cool internet searches.
Okay.
Cool.
That's it.
All right.
That's all I know. That's all I care about. Follow us on all our social medias.
Yeah, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at DTFU Podcast. Send us an email if you have a cool story you'd like for us to read on the air, dtfupodcast@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to our closed Facebook group. It's Dude That's Fucked Up group. Is that what it's called?
No, just Dude That's Fucked Up. But fucked is spelled out. No
fucked
asterisks.
is spelled out.
Yeah.
It's not. It's yeah. And if you are still can't find it, just shoot us a note and ask, and we can
just like
we can
stop
direct you
by Erin's house. Her address is.
Yeah. If you guys need anything, just holler.
Yeah.
Follow us on all the social medias. We love you guys. Thanks so much for listening.
We love you. You're precious.
You're precious angels.
I'm going to cheers you one more time to 20.
Oh, yeah. Hold on, wait. Let me get you back up on the screen.
Oh, what? Oh, you were going to stop
I had just clicked over. All right. One more glass.
Oh, okay.
I need a one glass. Cheers.
That's why I need a one glass.
Love you.
Love you. And I love good fancy champagne.
Love you guys. Cheers.
Let's do this again at 20,000.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's do this
Only
again
2
at
bottles.
11,000.
Tomorrow.
Like literally 2 days from now. All right.
Okay.
Bye everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.